All right, guys, here it is. This is the troublemaker. This is my 2005 Cadillac CTS-V. It has the LS6, and it actually has a TR6060 swap. I actually got this car off a buddy of mine, so shout out Connor. He took great care of it. The transmission's already been out twice. The old master cylinder. And I'll get into more of the problems this car has been facing in probably a different video or at some other point in the video. This is really just going to be more of an introduction to this car. So let's talk about it. Because I could go into a million different details about blemishes and whatnot. Who really cares, right? The point is we want to get this thing running. We want to get it driving. And it does run. It sounds pretty nasty. As you can tell, it is pretty loud. It's low on gas, and I don't really have a way to get it to the gas station, so I'm going to shut it off. With that being said, I don't have a way to get it to the gas station. You might ask, well, what's wrong with it? Let's get into it. Story time. So a little bit of story time. This car obviously it was equipped from factory with a T56 from Tremec, and those transmissions had issues, right? Let's talk about that. The third and fourth gear synchros are just known for meshing. I don't remember technically if it was a single cone synchro or a triple cone synchro, but if I'm correct, if I remember right, it's a single cone synchro from third to fourth. Now they had issues with that. In the TR6060, they all switched over to triple cone, and it's a much better system. You can just tell the difference. That shifts much smoother, and it's just overall better transmission. The T56 itself, great. I have a T56 in other of my cars. I've had a T56 in my old Corvette Z06. I love that transmission. But unfortunately, the one that came in this CTS-V, only 83,000 miles on it, had a failure. It wouldn't come out of fourth gear. This is all back when my buddy had this car. He owned it, and he wanted to put big power through it. He had a twin turbo kit all ready to go on it, and then this transmission happened, and it threw a wrench in his plan, to say the least. Had to end up spending the money at a shop. He got a built TR6060 from Texas Driveline. And you might say, hey, well, the TR6060 doesn't fit in a T56 car. So it's a T56 casing with TR6060 internals. And there's a company out in Texas called Texas Driveline, and they build these transmissions and they'll ship them all over the country for you. That's a big ticket item, to say the least. Sorry, there's a plane flying over. Transmission itself costs $6 grand, flat. It's got everything: brass shift forks, carbon fiber synchros, the works. Transmission's rated for roughly 1,000 horsepower, so it's a fancy ass transmission. A McLeod RXT clutch, twin disc. And it's, as a twin disc clutch, it's supposed to be a very light pedal feel, right? Took it to Bryant Brothers I'll say their fucking name, because these guys steer clear, if you're asking me. Bryant Brothers Performance out there in Birmingham. They ordered everything he needed. He just said, look, take the car, the transmission doesn't work, I'm trying to put big power through it, get me something that's gonna work with my setup, this is how I wanna do it. Told him what he wanted, and gave the shop the keys and said, take it, let me know how much it costs, right? Shop got him that transmission. Shop got him that clutch. The shop actually got him a McLeod slave cylinder, which was the beginning of the end with this fucking headache, right? That slave cylinder has a high fluid demand, right? Now, so this is for more of my car guys that know the mechanics and the hydraulic systems of a clutch. But I'll get into it real quick just so I can give you guys a brief overview. Every time you pump that clutch pedal, you're putting fluid from the master cylinder, so you're pretty much compressing the fluid in the master cylinder. It's going through the line into the slave cylinder. I actually have a slave cylinder here. Clutch, master cylinder, press that clutch in. It's going to feed fluid into this line. It's going to come into this, and it's going to actuate this bearing. This bearing pretty much engages or disengages the clutch. Now, this is the old master cylinder. As you can tell, this chamber is filling up with fluid. Well, it couldn't put out enough fluid to get that slave cylinder pushed in. And I called McLeod and I said, the pedal is so damn heavy and doesn't even want to go into gear. Why? You know what I mean? I asked them just straight up why. And they explained it to me. They said, well, that master cylinder, the stock master cylinder, can't keep up with the fluid demand of the McLeod slave cylinder. It took me about a minute on the phone to figure that out with them. So essentially what I had to end up doing is remove the transmission. I still wanted to use that slave cylinder, right? But I had originally assumed that the clearances were wrong between, and there's some technical stuff where you can't have the bearing has to be within like a certain distance, real small. Like the bearing can't be riding on the clutch, but it also needs to be right there so that you don't have a big gap, so you can actually fully engage that clutch with that bearing. Because as you can see, the bearing only squeezes out so much. So if it's too far away, you're never going to fully engage the clutch. If you're too close, then you're going to have an issue with overextending and fucking shit up. So that was what I was dealing with. I'm not sure which one it was, but I took it out, adjusted the spacing, put it back in. Cut. The bleeder valve comes out from the top. Why? Because air rises. If the bleeder is switched with the master cylinder connection, yeah, it might work barely, which it did barely work, but because you have a big air pocket in it, right? So you're getting gaps in between fluid. So you're putting fluid and air, and it's not gonna, you're gonna have hiccups. It's gonna catch, and it's not gonna work. So they had that backwards. First thing, and you cannot switch them back without the transmission coming down. So I bet you they put it in, they noticed, I guarantee it. I mean, that's a common sense thing, but they still knew it would go into gear. It might be able to drive it down the street. And they said, screw it, pushed out the car. Called him back multiple times saying, hey, look, this isn't working. We got problems. So they didn't want to offer a solution to my friend. I'm not sure exactly what he told them, but regardless, they weren't being helpful. I ended up getting the car because my friend was just tired of it. He couldn't drive it. He was done with it. He wanted to move on to something a little bit newer, a little fancier. I don't blame him. So I took the transmission out and figured out that, hey, the slave cylinder from McLeod that's in there is not going to work. So this is a stock slave cylinder to go with the stock master cylinder. Shit, it is hot in here. I'm sweating. So just a brief overview. This is a project that I was not really anticipating on taking on. It kind of just came on to me real quick, and there's a deal I got on this car that once in a lifetime, to say the least. But my priority right now is actually building my 240SX, because I know everyone that gets those cars, I would shit on them all the time. You get the car, you don't have the money to build it, and that thing just sits in your driveway for... Those cars sit and rot, really, nowadays. I mean, you got teenagers that buy them and weld the diff and drift them. That's fine. I have no problem with that. I don't think anyone should have a problem with what you do with your car, as long as you're actually out there on the road driving it. So I got a 240SX. It has a 5.3 swap. I know, sacrilege. But I love LSs. I actually know how to work on LSs. I mean, that's all I really know is the Chevy V8. It's very easy. I mean, to me, it's very basic, and I think everyone widely agrees that the LS is one of the easiest beginner platforms on making good enough power, and the simplicity really helps. Just throw a cam at it, and people port and polish the heads. I personally don't think that that's necessary. I would say keep the head stock. The LS heads are fine. That'll be a video for another time. That'll be a very exciting video when that motor comes out. And I wish that I had started the channel when I started pulling that motor and actually breaking that motor down, because I would love to put out some of my knowledge and whatnot about this platform to the internet. So I said, well, I'm dealing with another project right now, so why not make a video about it? Why not kind of keep my friends updated? Because, look, I don't know if you guys can tell, I'm on an Air Force base in Mississippi. I'm from California. I don't live out here. I don't know no one out here, really. So I'm away from home, contacting people back home. I mean, it's not that hard. I mean, I talked to a few guys, but this video is for all my buddies, really, that are interested in what I'm doing, how I'm doing it. I think it'd be really cool just to sort of like give you guys sort of like a little more of a sneak peek into what I'm really doing. That's that, really. If you guys have any ideas of what you want to see, drop them down below in the comments. I could probably give you guys a good explanation about these planes. Got a lot of planes flying here, and I'm a firefighter, and so we deal with all the broken ass planes that trying to catch on fire and shit like that, crash land. It's pretty much all I do here. We fly a bunch of old planes. Anyways, I want to keep this video on the shorter side, so probably gonna end it here. But again, whatever you guys want to see, I'll be willing to make it. So catch you guys next time. Peace.